Hey guys, it's Life with Eva. Welcome back. And today we're going to be reading the 4th chapter of Lost and Found. And Floki's going to be here today reading with me. So, hope you enjoy. Lost and Found, Chapter 4. I can't believe how cold it's gotten so fast. Naomi stepped out of the SUV and wound her scarf around her neck. Emily tightened her jacket. Good thing she'd remembered to grab it when she'd taken Sherlock home after the training session. The wind off the lake could chill to the bone quickly. Naomi knocked on the front door of Bree and Cade's lighthouse. Emily absolutely adored their home. She loved how old it was, how the wood floors squeaked when she stepped on them, and how the sun slanted through the wavy glass in the windows. One day, she wanted to have a home with as much character as the lighthouse. Hey, Cade opened the door. Come on in. He shut the door behind them. Wow, the temperature's really dropping out there. Emily could easily see why Bree had married Cade. He was tall like Dad, with dark brown hair and pretty blue eyes. But what made him really hot was how nice he was. As a park ranger, he cared a lot about animals and taking care of them. And besides, he never treated her like she was just a kid, like some adults did. Naomi set her scarf on the entry table. Sorry I'm so late getting Timmy, but with the fire... Cade smiled. Please, you know Timmy's no bother. He keeps Dave out of trouble when he's here. Bree joined them in the living room, both of the twins trailing after her. Is there any more news? Naomi shook her head. Just that Principal Sturgeon is positive no one was supposed to be in the lab. Hannah and Hunter, both precious 3-year-olds, caught sight of Emily and ran toward her, squealing. She knelt to accept their hugs and kisses. She babysat them as often as she could to make spending money, but it never felt like work because she loved them so much. Is it possible someone left something on in the lab at the end of the school and it took a few hours for a fire to start? Cade asked. I don't know. Naomi leaned her hip against the back of the couch. Mason and Jack Dix were asking everyone questions as they left. Maybe they'll get some sort of lead. I guess they'll be able to tell more once they've secured the school. Timmy and Dave exploded into the room. Mom, can Dave spend the night with me, please? We'll go to bed as soon as you say. Not tonight, sport, Cade answered before Naomi could. It's school night. But we'll go to bed on time, we promise. Emily's little brother gave Naomi what she dubbed the puppy dog eyes. Naomi didn't budge. Maybe you guys can have a sleepover this weekend after the homecoming celebration. She ran a hand over his hair, messing it up. Go get your stuff. We left Dad and Matthew alone in the kitchen to start dinner. That could be a disaster, Bree chuckled. Go help Timmy get his things, Dave. The boys headed down the hall, moving much slower than they'd entered. Hannah and Hunter trotted behind them, mumbling in their toddler twin talk. Emily stood and shoved her hands in her pockets. Inetta Harris said Sheriff Kaleva thought someone broke into the lab and started a fire. Really? Naomi turned to stare at her. I didn't hear that. She said nothing was sure yet, though. Oh, man, she hoped she hadn't got Inetta in trouble by saying anything. Inetta hadn't said she shouldn't say anything. Maybe she should just stop talking. I ran into Odetta Sayers in the parking lot. Or rather, she ran into me. Naomi locked stares with Bree. And... Bree raised her eyebrows. Let's just say we probably shouldn't deliver any more food to the Copper Club. Naomi tilted her head toward Emily. Really? Did they think she didn't notice? She was 14, after all, not some little kid who couldn't understand things. Before anyone could comment further, Bree's cell phone rang. She yanked it from her pocket. Hello? Timmy and Dave returned, being loud and just, well, boys. Cade shushed them as he scooped Hannah and Hunter up into his arms. The twins giggled as he jostled them and made silly faces. I see. Bree wore a frown, which usually meant only one thing. A search and rescue. It's okay. Naomi's here with me. We'll meet you there. Bree slipped the phone into her back pocket. Somebody missing? Naomi stiffened. Just a search. Mason found some fabric of what appears to be a fleece jacket that was caught in the hallway's main door. He believes it might be from the person who broke into the school. He asked the dogs to come see what they can sniff out. Let me drop the kids off with Donovan, and I'll grab Charlie and meet you at the school. Naomi turned to Timmy. Let's go, buddy. Timmy opened the front door, gave Dave a knuckle bump, then jumped to the ground, skipping the steps. Naomi followed. Emily's muscles tensed. Can I come? Naomi glanced back over her shoulder. Honey, this isn't a search and rescue. This is looking for a clue. It's not nearly as exciting as you might think. I want to come, even if it's boring. It would be a great training for Sherlock. She held her breath as Naomi looked at Bree. Why not? Bree shrugged. We can always use another set of eyes and hands. Emily forced herself not to jump up and down. Naomi grinned. Well, come on. We'll get the dogs and meet you there, Bree. Bounding down the stairs, Emily pressed her lips together to stop from shouting out. She climbed into the SUV and latched her seatbelt, excitement exploding in her chest. This would be a great search, especially since no one was lost or hurt. They'd just be hunting down clues. Speaking of hunting down clues, Emily sent a quick text to Annetta, asking the reporter to meet her and Olivia after school tomorrow. They'd share a panukakua or a pula and tell Annetta about Olivia being adopted and about what Emily found on the internet. She'd be able to help. And there could always be an email response waiting already. Annetta replied immediately that she'd see them at the Suwami Cafe tomorrow afternoon. Emily shoved her phone into her jacket pocket. Maybe she'd have even more to share with Annetta tomorrow. After all, she was on her way to a real search to solve a serious crime. The sharp scent of smoke still hung in the air of the schoolyard and choked Emily's throat. She kept a tight hold on the leashes as she followed Bree and Naomi toward the front entrance of the school. The crowd was gone, but the turf was trampled from all the feet. The sheriff's stocky form filled the doorway as he stepped out to meet them. His face was somber and streaked with soot. Something about the whole scene made Emily jumpy. It was starting to get dark, and she imagined she saw shadows moving inside the school. Probably deputies and firemen, but it was still pretty creepy. She bent down and scratched Charlie's ears and immediately felt a little better. Nothing could happen to her with these dogs here. Bree stopped in front of him. You found something, Mason? He handed her a paper bag. I used gloves to put it in here. This scrap of fabric was caught on the latch of the door. Someone was in a hurry coming out and got caught. It's navy fleece. Might have come from a jacket or a sweatshirt. Show me where it was found, Bree said. I want to see if there's anything else. Emily straightened Sherlock's leash and grabbed the Ready Kit backpack. Fully outfitted with a first aid kit, small plastic tarp, energy bars, flashlight, flares, bug repellent, towelettes, compass, Swiss Army knife, radio, topographic map of the area, canteen, sunglasses, sunscreen, and every other item anyone would need on a search. They probably wouldn't need any of that searching around the school, but the first rule of search and rescue was to always be prepared. The sheriff's bushy brows rose when he glanced at her. Then he locked stairs with Naomi. You're letting her search with you? I'm not so sure she needs to see inside. It might be traumatic for a kid. Emily drew herself up. I'm old enough to help. Sherlock has a good nose, and I've helped Charlie, too. You know the dogs do a good job together. She took courage from her own words. There was nothing to fear inside the school. He glanced at Bree, who nodded. I want to keep it cordoned off until my detectives are through. Just see what you can do with this fabric. All right. Bree knelt by the dogs, then opened the bag. She let Samson sniff first, then thrust oat bag under Charlie's nose. Sherlock was the last to sniff. Emily unsnapped the leashes. "Search, Samson!" Bree gave the order. Samson's curly tail wagged. He ran out to the opening by the flagpole. His nose in the air, he darted across the grass, then back the other way. Charlie followed him, and so did Sherlock. Emily watched her puppy closely as he sniffed the grass, then lifted his leg at the flagpole. Samson and Charlie ignored him, crisscrossing the area with their noses in the air. "No, Sherlock!" Emily's face burned as she started toward him. "Leave him alone. He'll figure it out," Bree said. Naomi grabbed Emily's arm. "They all have to learn. He's just a puppy, remember? Give him time." The puppy nosed along a row of mums, then barked excitedly and chased a rabbit from the plants. Emily sighed. He didn't seem to understand he was supposed to be working. Naomi's grip on Emily's arm tightened. "Samson has a scent." Samson's tail went up and he barked. He raced around the corner of the school with Charlie on his heels. Sherlock yipped and ran after them, but it was clear the puppy didn't want to be left out of whatever new adventure his friends had found. Emily stuffed the leashes in the pockets of her jacket as she chased the dogs. Samson veered to go around to the back of the school, and Charlie followed. Sherlock, on the other hand, went in the opposite direction. Emily's lungs burned as she put on an extra burst of speed to grab her puppy, then follow Bree and Naomi, who had followed the big dogs. At the back of the building, Samson had leaped up against the door and barked. Charlie had his feet planted and barked ferociously as well. Emily set Sherlock on the ground, and he promptly went to nose the dirt under the window. Bree reached the door and grabbed Samson's collar. "Easy, boy." When Emily reached the door, she bent over and dragged in a few deep breaths before she could speak. "Why would they come back here when the front door was open? I think the dogs got derailed." Bree shook her head. "Look at Samson and Charlie. They still have the scent. Part of being a good SAR team is to know your dog's behavior. That means observing them." Naomi tugged on the door. "Locked. Where does this lead?" "To the football locker room, I think," Emily said. Not that she'd ever been inside it. Sweaty boys. Gross. The sheriff reached them. The big man was huffing. "I have a key." He dug in his pocket and pulled out a key. After an initial fumble, he got it unlocked. The acrid stench of smoke rushed out, and Emily took an involuntary step back. The sheriff waved his hand in the air. Even this far from the actual fire, it stunk. Bree didn't seem to mind the smell. She released Samson's collar, and the dog darted into the dark hall. Bree and Naomi followed. Emily hung back. "Got a flashlight? It's dark in there. I don't want Sherlock to get cut." The sheriff grinned and reached inside to flip the switch. "We have power." The light helped Emily step inside. There was water everywhere, and leaves dragged in by the water hoses covered the floor. The walls were marred, too. I guess they brought the hoses in everywhere they could. She couldn't see Bree or Naomi, but around the corner, Samson began to bark. Charlie nearly tripped her as he ran after Samson. "I think he's found something." Emily let Sherlock ahead as she followed the noise. She found Naomi and Bree standing in the boys' locker room. It felt weird to be where girls weren't supposed to be. Lockers lined the walls, and there was a heap of shoulder pads on the bench at the back wall. Emily wrinkled her nose at the smell under the scent of smoke. It smelled like old shoes. She forced her attention back to Bree. "Found it." Bree pointed to a fleece jacket on the floor. "I haven't touched it." The sheriff pulled a pair of gloves from his pocket and slipped them on. Kneeling by the jacket, he lifted one sleeve and then the other. When he found nothing, he flipped the jacket over. "Ah, this is the one. There's a piece missing at the waist. I'll run it through 4 and 6 and see if we can find anything." Emily stared hard at the jacket. Where had she seen it before? And that's the end of Chapter 4, Lost and Found. Come back later or tomorrow to listen to Chapter 5. Bye!